It's 2020, a time where we're all staying home. Luckily, we've all got our retro computing collections to help try and keep us sane. And if you've got a bunch of BBCs, boy do I have the video for you. In the first part of this video, we looked at the history of Econet and how it became dominant in UK schools, and in this part, we'll look at how to make your own. If you are interested in the history of Econet, you'll see a link to that video in the description below. Now this video is going to have two sections. We're going to show you how to build Econet using actual Acorn BBC hardware, and the second section is going to be all about the emulation. Now if you're going to build an Econet network, one of the things you're going to need is a BBC. One of the other things you're going to need is another BBC. Yes, if you're going to network BBCs, you're going to need a minimum of at least, well, 2 BBCs. I mean, 3 would be great, but you're looking at a bare minimum of 2. Now luckily you've got quite a variety of BBCs to choose from. You can have a BBC B or A. You can have a BBC Master or a BBC Master Compact. If you already own an Acorn Atom or have the kind of money that allows you to own an Acorn Atom, you could even have an Acorn Atom on your Econet. Even Acorn Electron users aren't left out in the cold, as Barson Computers even developed an Econet interface for the Acorn Electron. Now once you've got your BBCs, you're going to need some Econet interfaces for those BBCs. However, given that many BBCs did in fact have an Econet interface fitted, there's a not tiny chance that your BBC may actually already have an Econet interface, so it's definitely worth opening up that case and having a look. Now here's a BBC B with its lid off. Ooh, saucy. And here you can see the section of the PCB where an Econet interface would be if it had an Econet interface. Yes, this is a BBC that's missing one, and this is what one that's missing one looks like. So if your PCB looks like this, you're gonna need yourself an Econet interface. And luckily there's a chap called Beebmaster, occasionally makes interface kits available on eBay. So you can get yourself one of those, pop all the components in, and have a jolly good time soldering them all. Now, soldering things does not seem your bag. Do not worry, there are places you can go to who will solder these things together for you. But I would say, this is really not as hard a job as it looks. It's all through hole. I mean, I'm not a great solderer, but even I managed it on a machine or two. I'd give it a whirl. I mean, after all, what's the worst that could happen? You could, merely just destroy your precious BBC, burn your house down, and get disowned by your family. Things for the BBC Master and BBC Master Compact are somewhat easier, however. You get these little Econet interface boards that you can just pop inside your machine. They're pretty easy to fit. You'll find them on eBay. Plenty of ones going secondhand. And again, that Beebmaster chap who I mentioned earlier, yeah, he even makes up new boards. Look, we got one here. You can just, again, pop in your Master or your Master Compact. Life's pretty simple. They also go inside a few of the Archimedes machines as well. Shh, don't tell anyone. So, we've got some BBCs, we've got some Econet interfaces, now we're going to need some cabling and a clock box. So in terms of clock box, you're either going to try and get yourself one of the original ones from SJ Research or Acorn, I mean they do come up on eBay every now and again, or you're going to get one of the new ones that people are making. The new ones are way easier to get hold of than the old ones, as you can just, go to a shop and buy one, which is pretty darn convenient. CJE Micros sells them, so you can just go onto their website and, buy yourself one. You'll also find designs on GitHub if you fancy making one yourself. You'll find PCB layouts and bombs and everything, and you just get a board made up, purchase yourself some bits and get soldering. You'll find in the description below that I've popped some links to not only stuff on GitHub, but also CJE's Micros clock box as well. So we've got clock boxes, we've got interfaces, we're gonna need some cabling. Now again, you can go the route of trying to find old socket boxes on eBay. They still come up every now and again. Again, they go for a fair old price, but they are definitely there. You can even still buy some of them from CJE Micro. The other option is the Y-splitter cables or T-pieces. They're quite good for linking machines together. Again, CJE Micros carries those. And the alternative, some people have actually been designing their own Econet socket boxes with RJ45 to link them together. It's worth having a bit of a nose round, see if you can find some. And although I've seen them, I couldn't find a particular example to link in the comments section below, so if any of you know where you can find someone, do feel free to, pop them in the comments section and enlighten us all. The final alternative is you can have a go at making your own socket boxes. I've linked an article down below on RetroKit, where it'll show you how to put them together, so if you fancy giving it a whirl, that's the place to look. Okay, now we get to the really exciting bit, file servers. Yes, if you're going to want to do the whole Econet Network thing, yeah, you're going to want a file server. Now if you're thinking that MDFS or the Acorn file server from the previous video looked pretty good, you're right, they do. They are very good. They're also basically unobtainium. I've not seen one on eBay for over a decade now, so I wouldn't hold out your hopes of getting one of those unless you know someone who's willing to sell you one, or Actually, there is no or. I mean, you're probably just not going to get one any other way. So realistically, you've only got about 2 options. You're going to have to build yourself either a level 3 file server or a level 4 file server. Now, the level 4 file server is not particularly difficult. It's take pretty much any old Archimedes box, stick the level 4 file software on it, give it a hard drive and an Econet interface, and you're good. I'm going to guess that's not going to be the most popular option, as it doesn't involve using the BBC, and, you know, we want to build a BBC Econet, so we're going to want the level 3 most probably, so that's what I'm going to spend all the, detailed time on here. So, if you remember from the previous video, which is linked in the description below, don't run off just yet, you can watch it later. If you remember from the previous video, the level 3 is basically one BBC Micro, a second 6502 processor, and a hard drive. Now, getting over a BBC Micro with an Econet interface, not too difficult. They're readily obtainable, and you may in fact already have one. Original second process, however, yeah, no, that's getting harder. There are less and less of those available on eBay these days. I mean, they do still come up. It's a great option if you can get hold of one. It's nice to use the original kit, but yeah, they're not going to be the easiest thing to get hold of. Luckily, we don't need an original one. A while ago, some clever person thought, do you know, if we just stick a voltage level shift on this, we can hook a Pi up and get it to pretend to be all the coprocessors the BBC had. Hence the Raspberry Pi coprocessor tube adapter. Ooh, we have one here. This particular one was made for us by Mark Haseman over at Retro Clinic. I mean, other people do make these things, but this is the one I happen to buy. And this one allows you essentially just to plug into the tube socket under your BBC with a little bit of a ribbon cable. Then you take a Raspberry Pi Zero, you plug it in, write the right image to the SD card, slap that in the Pi, and there you go, you've got yourself all the coprocessors the BBC Micro ever had. And of course, if you don't want it external and you've got yourself a Beebmaster, well, there's an internal version of the tube adapter that you can pop inside your Beebmaster, stick your Raspberry Pi in there, and there you go, it's all neatly inside your Beebmaster case. Neat. If you don't mind paying a bit more for your Raspberry Pi Zero, you can get one with the header pins already pre-soldered in, or you can even buy yourself a complete kit of the tube adapter and the Pi and the SD card. Or alternatively, you can buy all the bits separate and solder on the header pins yourself, like I'm doing here in this little bit of footage. There we go. Turns out a lot harder to solder and not get your head in the way of the camera. I am better at soldering when I don't have to worry where my head is. Yeah, this is not great soldering. Yeah. Anyway, moving swiftly on from the terrible soldering job, we've now got ourselves a second processor, be it either one of the original ones or a Raspberry Pi based one. But we've got one, so time to look at the storage. Now, you can buy yourself an original hard drive, like this giant lump of tin you can see in this bit of video footage here. I mean, you can. You shouldn't. I mean, you can, but just don't. Look, I mean, this is a 40-year-old hard drive. If you can find one that's working, you can afford, it's going to break down pretty darn quickly and lose all your data. So, you know, no. Yeah, we need to look at some modern storage based on an SD card or a compact flash or something like that for this to not blow up in our face. So our basic options here is we have the wonderful data center, again created by Mark Haseman, who seems to have been coming up quite a lot lately. I promise he's not sponsoring this video, that's just a coincidence. Now that's what I use personally. I have a little compact flash card in there, and that acts as the hard drive to my level 3. The other option is something based around Beeb SCSI. Now you can either get one of the Beeb SCSI cards that Simon Innes put together himself, or again, there is one of those little voltage shifter kind of dealies for the 1 MHz bus, and then you can stick a Raspberry Pi on there that can pretend to be a Beeb SCSI, which is pretty handy. And you can see one of them here. Again, you just take this thing, pop the header pins on a Raspberry Pi Zero, pop the Pi Zero into this thing, put the right software on the SD card, and away you go. Again, I'll link to that in the description. But that then gives you a functioning Beeb SCSI hard drive. And also a Music 500 and a RAM expansion as well, which we're going to make no use of on one of these machines, but never mind. So we've got all the bits we need to build a level 3 file server. Let's get building a level 3 file server. First thing we're going to have to do is format our hard drive, and we have a handy little utility for that. Now I'm going to show you this being run through an emulator, because I'm not going to format my compact flash card because it's already got stuff on it, so I'm sorry, you'll just have to see this in emulation. Once formatted, it's given us 2 partitions, one ADFS one, where all our file server software can go, and one especially formatted as the level 3 file storage volume, where all our users and network files are going to go once the file store's up and running. So with our disk formatted and all the file server utilities copied across to the ADFS partition, we basically have a file server ready to go. So let's boot this bad boy up. Once the level 3 software is loaded, we've got a few details we need to give it, like for example the date. Now I'm running this here on the Beebmaster that has a real-time clock. The original BBC didn't, so when you turned it off it forgot whatever the date and time was. So you had to enter it manually whenever you started the level 3. Now obviously that could be a bit of a pain in the butt. I mean, you don't have to do this every single time you restart it. So Acorn made a real-time clock you could plug into the user port. Now we've not got one of those because 1, they're expensive, and 2, they had an inbuilt backup battery so they could, keep the time when the BBC was off, and they're all dead now. That, and they were surrounded by potting compounds, good luck getting that thing out. Our final task is to tell the file server about all its disks, and then tell it to start, and tell it the number of workstations we'd like it to be able to deal with. And after quite a while of checking its disks, I sped this footage up, it really does take quite a while, it eventually has started and is now a fully functional level 3 file server, ready to serve files to all our BBC and RISC machines, or write files as well. When we were formatting the disk, we were asked to supply a username or two. Well, that's the default account now for this thing, so we can log in using that username and no password by default. So, we've built ourselves a hardware Econet network. We built the actual network itself, got ourselves a clock box, a workstation, level 3 file server. We are all good. But what if you want a little play with Econet and you don't want to do the whole hardware route? Well, I said we'd have a look at doing this in emulation, so here comes the emulation section. So, this is Beeb. It emulates pretty much every single BBC there was and pretty much all the hardware add-ons for the BBC, including Econet. Now the handy thing about how Beeb does Econet emulation is that it uses AUN, Acorn Universal Networking, to encapsulate all the Econet traffic for us, which is exactly the same system that RISC-OS used, which means we can actually get Beeb talking to real RISC-OS machines. Now this of course means that an emulated Beeb, set up as a level 3, can actually act as a file store to RISC-OS machines, which is pretty cool. Or alternatively, you can use Beeb as a client to a level 4 file server running on a RISC-OS machine. There are some alternatives to the level 4 file server software you can run on RISC-OS, the likes of AWServe and SoftMDFS. AUN relies on something called the AUN map, which is a simple text file that tells you how your Econet addresses map to IP and UDP ports on different machines. You can in fact have more than one Econet station number on a single machine, you just have to use a different port number for each Econet station number. Now, if you want to get a level 3 file server up and running in Beeb, well, all you have to do is click the tick boxes that turn on the extra bits of hardware that we need. So, we need a second 6502 processor, we need a hard drive, we can even turn on the real-time clock to make life a little easier, and then we just mount the disk image with the file server software on, and then we follow through the exact same hard disk formatting thing we went through on the real hardware. Everything else is basically the same. After all, this is an emulator. Now the final file server option I'm going to cover for this is the one I wrote myself. Yes, I wrote an Econet file server emulator. Don't worry, I didn't just write it just for this video. I go to a lot of effort on these things, but writing a whole file server would perhaps would just be one step too far, even for me. Now my particular one's written in PHP because why not? And to be honest, PHP is a lot more accessible language, so I wanted people to be able to see how it worked, take it apart, add their own features into it, do stuff with it. And more people know PHP than a lot of other languages I could have written this thing in. And PHP is pretty easy to modify. You don't have to worry about pointers and other scary things that may just make it implode. I also figured while we're being all modern about this, we could turn it into a Docker image and then you can launch it on Docker under Windows, Linux, Mac, or even if you got one of those fancy little Synology NAS boxes, you can launch it on there. Now, for those who are not familiar with Docker, it's a containerization system originally written to run under Linux, but it can run on pretty much every OS these days that's in major commercial use. And you just tell the thing to pull the image for Docker. There we go, just like that. You then tell it to run, and you give it a port number you want it to listen on. And you give it some directories you want it to map into your filing system, which is where all our files are going to be served from. And then you go, the thing's up and running, and then you can connect Beeb to it, log in, and there's even a little web interface you can use to see who's logged in and have a look at users and whatnot. Ooh, how exciting. Well, that just about wraps everything up for this video. If you've managed to build yourself an Econet network or done something with emulation, why not tell us about it in the comment section below? So, it just remains for me to say thank you all very much for watching, and especially those of you who subscribed. Do feel free to click the like button or share this video with friends and family or people you think might actually be interested in this. And of course, as ever, if you're feeling in the mood to subscribe, I would of course appreciate it, because it actually means quite a big deal to me when people subscribe and stuff. Really makes me want to make more of these things. Okay, well, thank you very much, and goodbye.